Okay, so first of all, Potchim Lichvod Achsanya, we wanted to thank again the Pichilo family, right? That in Sheva the Bezrat Hashem, they should have a lot of simachot in this house and a lot of berachot in this house. Always opening up the doors, Bezrat Hashem, and we should always hear good news. B'sorot tovot Bezrat Hashem. Tonight's Shiur is going to be a very interesting topic. Last week we focused a lot on the topic of compliments in marriage. Okay? I don't know if you guys want to come closer. Okay. Right? I don't know, right? So there's a concept of compliments in marriage, and tonight we're going to try to focus a little bit on criticism in marriage. So obviously this is a completely different concept, right? And let's just see what exactly is going on, because obviously this is a little bit feisty. So we're going to go into a little bit of the details, and let's start from here. Every person wants to be perfect, correct? Or I hope so. We all want to be perfect. We want to strive to be perfect. And therefore, many times it comes throughout the day that, for example, a person goes outside. What is the first thing that they do? They want to look at themselves in the mirror. Why? They want to look, whether it's going to be their appearance, whether it's going to be everything around them. They want to look and they want to be perfect. Now, imagine right now, you're looking for an address and you're wandering around, and somebody comes and asks you, where are you going? You look a little bit lost. So you say, yeah, I'm going for this direction. So the guy comes and he tells you, you're going the wrong way, completely. If you would have continued, you would have been another hour, I don't know where, and I don't know where you would have been. So obviously, what are you going to tell them? You're going to thank them, correct? Obviously, you say, thank you very, very much. You helped me, I was lost, and now you helped me go to the proper path. So why is it different then if it's going to be that all of a sudden, if right now we are lost because we were going the wrong direction, why all of a sudden now, if somebody's going to put us on the right direction, are we not going to have the same attitude? Meaning, when it comes to, we're going to call it criticism, but it's not, sometimes we call it reproving, reproach. There's many different synonyms in it, right? Scolding, there's many different types of it. And not always is it going to be something negative. Sometimes it's actually something positive. Meaning, I want my other half to be perfect. Or I want my children to be perfect. So if I want my children to be good, so what? So you're not going to tell them anything negative? You're not going to tell them anything bad? But you want them to be good. So therefore, there has to be some element of what we're going to be calling criticism, or something that we are rebuking them for, to try to make them become better. But the majority of people do not like that. Meaning, you're going to come and you're going to tell somebody that I'm always going to tell you, you're doing this bad and this bad and this bad. They're not going to like it. So therefore, it's even pasuk. The pasuk in Mishle says, Al tochach letz peni snaeka, which means that if you're going to come and you're going to give rebuke to a mocker, he's actually going to hate you for it. And again, hatred, mamash hatred. So therefore, we have to actually understand, so okay, fine. So what exactly then is our mission? So our mission then is to always make sure that it's not the actual what we're saying, it's the delivery. Why? There's a Gemara. The Gemara says in Mesechet Erechim, the Gemara is talking about, right, an incredible Gemara where it speaks about, right, that the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Temihani im yesh bador hazeh sheyodea leochiach. I'm going to be shocked if there's anybody in this generation that knows how to rebuke, that knows how to give words of criticism. Now, Rashi says, sheyodea, right, leochiach derech kavod. That he knows how to do it in a kavod way, that he's giving it with respect, shelo yu panav mishtanim, that it doesn't change their face. Which means, and that's also the Maharal. Maharal says it's a chokhmah rabba me'od. You need a very great wisdom until the person is going to accept it. And you need a chokhmah gdola ledaber imo divrei noam. Mamash, you're coming and you're speaking to them in a very, very nice way. What does that mean? What the rabbis are actually coming and teaching us is, it's not what you're saying, it's the delivery of how you're saying it. Which means you could, in essence, say anything that you want. The question, though, is how is our delivery? How are we saying it to the people? Because we're supposed to. And especially when we're going to be talking about the importance of family, right? When we're talking about the entire concept of family life, it's very important, the importance of criticism. But it has to be constructive. It has to be that we're building. It cannot just be stam that I'm coming and I'm giving criticism. Because if I'm going to criticize for the fun of it, we're going to see afterwards in the words of Rav Dessler, it's actually going to be something which is crazy. It's tragic. It's actually terrible. But if it's constructive, all of a sudden it's a necessity and it needs to be done. Now, why is it so important? Because obviously in a family, we always want that we're going to be together and not always do we actually understand each other. So how many times does it happen that all of a sudden you went and you did something for your spouse and you thought you were doing something actually positive, and all of a sudden it came out the exact negative, the exact opposite. You think that you're doing them a favor, and they come and they're saying, "Why are you doing that?" And you're like, "But I was just trying to help out." And they said, "No, but you did the exact opposite." And many times of that, which means that the reason why is because many times if we're actually thinking about it, we're not meant to harm the other one. It's actually, we want to actually try to do good things. But because we just don't understand, so sometimes we have to learn how to communicate what it is that we want from the other one, from the other spouse. And then by doing so, it's actually going to help out. And this in essence is what, right, we're trying to do whenever we're speaking about the entire concept of, we're going to be speaking about partnership, right, or anything of that. And the way that we actually understand is we see it to do with a friend. What's a true friend? So in the Gemara, they bring it down, right, that the true friend is brought down anywhere where you look, that a true friend is always going to be a person that will come and that will always put you on the right path. He's not a person that is going to overlook your mistakes. He will try to help you. If you have a friend that all they do is always, whatever you do is always good, that's not a true friend. A true friend is a person that will be able to tell it to you, but you know that since they love you and since they're doing it for your good, you will always accept it. And that in essence is what we're going to try to learn tonight. How exactly to, again, I'm using the word criticize, but it's to rebuke, to criticize, to reproach, to reprove. It's coming to give over a message to our spouse. And by the way, it's not only our spouse, it actually applies to anybody. It could be for our children, it could be for our employees, it could be for friends, it could be for anybody that's around us, in order to give over the message in a way that it's very, very going to be accepted and it's going to be constructive. So before doing this, we're going to have to actually first of all understand what is the difficulty in receiving rebuke. If we just said right now that, again, I'm walking down the street, I'm looking for an address, and I'm lost, and you come and you tell me you're going the wrong way, I'm going to thank you 100 times, but instead of, wasting the time, obviously I'm going to tell you thank you. So why is it that if you're going to tell me right now that I'm going the wrong way, in the wrong direction, it could be in ruchaniyut, it could be in spirituality, it could be in the way of my actions, it could be in my approach, it could be in anything that I want, why is it all of a sudden that automatically I'm not going to take it? What's the difference between
Because she wants to be always right.
You're correct, but 1 minute. Right, one second.
If he doesn't accept that it's the wrong way, that means it's not a true friend?
No. We try to dictate, we try to understand what is a true friend. A true friend is always somebody that they can tell you the truth, even though it's going to hurt. Which means the opposite. A true friend is not somebody that always tells you, you're right. A true friend will sometimes tell you, by the way, I think you're incorrect.
If the person doesn't accept it.
So very good. So we're going to speak about not accepting, but why? Why don't they accept it? And that's what we're trying to understand. Very good. That's one reason. What did you want to say?
You know it's wrong, but you don't want to accept that it's wrong.
So why? Why wouldn't you accept it? What stops you from accepting it?
Admits you have a character flaw.
And therefore?
And therefore, if you admit there's something wrong with you,
So we're actually going to bring down 3 reasons why people do not want to accept criticism. The first one is what they started saying is kavod and tacharut, which is basically the same thing as gava, but the ego. What does that mean? Right? The ego is going to go as follows. I think I'm perfect, correct? We all think we're perfect. We're all perfect, no?
Just the woman.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay. Well, that's why I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So we all think that we're perfect. So if right now we think that we're perfect, so therefore, if you're going to come and you're going to tell me that I'm wrong, what are you telling me? That I'm not perfect. I don't want to accept it. Right? Why? Because I think that I'm perfect. And that's why I'm doing it. Because a person will never look at themselves in a negative light. En adam roeh nigeh atzmo, which means a person will never come and say, I'm wrong in doing it. We'll justify ourselves. We'll tell ourselves that what we're doing is good. We're perfect. And we'll always try to make some answers. So why is it that maybe I have to help out less in the house? Because maybe I give more cleaner to my wife. Or why is it that right now I have to help out more, but the other one doesn't? Because maybe I make less than the other one. And why is it? And you keep on going. Because we're always going to justify ourselves. So therefore, the first reason is the kavod aspect, but it's also tacharut. What does it mean, tacharut? Tacharut means competition. Why? Because we're going to speak about this a little bit more later on, a little bit more in detail. Well, I'll give you the examples, but I'll just give you one example. That'll just throw it out right now. If I come and I say, I ask you to do me a favor, and I come and I say, you know what, do me a favor, can you do the floor, can you do the dishes, anything, right? Imagine right now the wife is asking us to help out in the house, or we're asking them whether it's to buy something or to do something, right? What are we going to tell them? By the way, when I do it this way. It's always, we always get much more success in that way. What am I doing? In ultimately, what I'm saying is, I'm better than you. And therefore, by saying that I'm better than you, automatically, I don't want to accept it. Because why are you better than me? So therefore, the first thing which is going to be very, very important is the entire concept of, when we're going to speak about the kavod v'tacharut means, is that the most important thing to a human being is their kavod, or they said already before, their ego, their gava, and therefore what happens? When you come and you burst their bubble, they don't want to accept it. So therefore, it's very, very important, right, that a person understand this. So I'll give you an example, right? One of the examples that they come, right, and they actually come and they say is Rivka is complaining about her husband, about not properly respecting her parents. So she comes and she says, okay, fine. So you're complaining about one mitzvah. So he says, okay, but are you fulfilling all the mitzvot of ben adam lechavero? Now, the truth is, what does one have to do with another? And then he says, okay, fine. So now she throws back at the husband. But do you go to minyan every single day? Now, the truth is, one second. I went and I told you about A. A was, respect my parents. All of a sudden, right, I come and, or if she's going to come and throw it back at me, or I throw it back at her, it's to do with respect about something completely different. About ben adam lechavero, interpersonal relationships. And then she throws it back about minyan every single day. What was the connection between all the three? The connection is many times they're not connected. The problem is that the second that you told me that you're better than me in A, B, C, D, what? Defense mechanism, automatically, right, what happens is I'm going to tell you, well, I'm also better than you. Or are you that perfect? And then all of a sudden we're going to start a problem. Right? Why? Because instead of accepting it, we want to stop it. Even though right now Daniel just said something very, very important, we're going to see it also as well. Sometimes, by the way, it even happens even without words. So for example, sometimes it happens that you have somebody that he was amongst the chilonim, non-religious. And all of a sudden, right, he went to a seminar, he went away, you didn't see him for a month, and he comes back and he's all dressed black and white. So the first thing that you think in yourself is, Hashem Yishmor, what happened in his family? Right? Why? Because obviously if he did the teshuvah like that, chas v'shalom, somebody sick, somebody this, somebody that, they have to do teshuvah right away. Right? But then they realized it was actually much worse. You know what they did? They did teshuvah. Right? There was nobody sick, everything Baruch Hashem, everyone was perfect. So now, without them even telling you a word, how did you know everything was fine with his family? Because he has got a nice big smile. If Be'emet, he's all serious and like that, so maybe Be'emet, there's something wrong in the family, he's doing teshuvah, and therefore, okay, fine. But here, the chiloni that's beside him, the not religious that's beside him, he sees this guy come back, black and white, tzitzit, mitzvot, this, that. He comes and says, there's something wrong here. He comes and he says, so you went with all the black people. No, you became all dosi, yeah, you became all... What happened exactly? He said, these are the ones that are running away from doing service in the army. That's what you're trying... What's the connection? Number one. Number two, did you actually say anything? You didn't say anything. The problem though is without even saying words, by me being like you, I was like you yesterday. I was the chiloni like you yesterday. And all of a sudden now, I changed my path. I changed my ways. Automatically I'm saying, I'm better than you. Why? Because they look at it and they're like, no, I don't want this. So therefore, what happens? What happens automatically, they have this defense system, if you want to call it, that is all of a sudden going to say, no. You're not that good. Well, you're going with them, you think that they're perfect. Right? They've got this flaw and this one and that. And automatically you put them down. Even though it's not correct, but it's an automatic nature that a person will come and they'll put up a self-defense that they say, no, I don't want to accept it. Now the truth is, chaval, because we're going to see later on that we have to listen. Because many times it actually helps us. So when we're actually going to speak about this concept of whether it's going to be hidden or not hidden, we're going to speak about, there's actually a Maharal that explains this beautifully. The Maharal is based upon a Gemara, where the Gemara says as follows. The Gemara says, right, in the same Gemara Verachim, where it says, I'm astonished if there's going to be somebody that knows how to give rebuke today or not. The Gemara says, why? Because when somebody comes and he tells him, Tol kisami ben shinecha, they tell him, Tol korami ben enecha. What does it mean? Somebody's going to tell you, you got a little something stuck in your teeth, a toothpick stuck in your teeth. So he's going to come and he's going to say, yeah, but you got a beam in front of your head. What is that referring to? The Maharal comes and he says, when you come and you tell somebody that you have something small in between the teeth, he's going to shoot it back at you, tell you, you've got something so big, it's right in front of your face, how can you not see it? It's much bigger. So what does that mean?
Really? I love that. Or someone told me
Yeah.
that.
Okay, but that's a Gemara. What does that mean? The Gemara is actually telling us, right, and this is the way that the Maharal Miprag is explaining it, that many times by nature, I'm going to shoot back at you right away. Why? Because you just wanted to correct me. Automatically, what am I going to do? Yeah, but what about this with you? And what about that? And what about... One second. Who's opening up history books? Who's opening up... I just came and I just told you one little tiny thing. Let's speak to the point. What are you now coming and opening up other pages or other... No. I just want one thing. This, and that's it. Right? That's all that we need. We don't need anything else. But that's the first thing which actually makes it very, very difficult. Another thing which is actually very, very important also, right? And this is, again, every single person, they have a desire that the person that they're living with, it would always be pleasurable, right? Obviously, you want to live with someone that you enjoy living with them. So now, but not everyone's perfect, and not everyone was made the same. So you think that, by nature, right, accept me the way that I am, right? Why? He's going to say, listen, he married me. He knew that I was like this. Let him get used to it. Or why should I change? So the second reason why it's so difficult to accept criticism is changing nature. What does it mean? Changing our habits. A person has certain habits. It could be that the habits already came from the family, right? From where they grew up. It could be that those habits came from the way that they were brought up. It could be from the way they were in school. It could be their own nature. Sometimes you have children, and every single child in the family is always different. So everyone is different. So therefore, it's very difficult for a person to get accustomed to change. So people are afraid of change. So it actually once happened that you had somebody that he said, okay, you want to go to a shiur? Yeah. What is the shiur about? It says shiur on Shalom Bayit. So okay, who's the rabbi? There's a very famous rabbi. He's giving an incredible shiur. Listen to this. You want to come? No, actually, I'm not interested. I said, but I don't understand. You told me 5 minutes ago you wanted to come, right? Also, why didn't you come? He says, no, because he might convince me. What does that mean? If a person by nature, he might think, if I'm going to go, it's going to obligate me to do something. I don't want to go because I don't want to change. So therefore, the first thing that they have to decide is, do I want to change? By nature, when you come and you criticize someone, right? By nature, they will come and they put up a block. Why? I don't want to change. I want to stay the same way. I want to start changing. I have to start now waking up early, start going to shachrit, start doing this, It's a lot or for example, the other way around, in so many different ways. So therefore, what happens is, because of this, it's much more difficult. Now, if you're going to think about what exactly, right, when we're talking about the entire importance of this was actually brought down, right, in the Sefer of Rav Yosef Albo, in the Sefer Ikarim. He says something incredible. A baby is born, and he starts crying. Why does he start crying? He says, you know why? He was happy in the womb. You're bothering him. Why are you taking him out? Now you're changing everything that he has around him. So he starts screaming. Why is he screaming? He doesn't want to change. And the same exact concept actually happens when we're talking about, right, not only about a baby, but the resistance for a person to pass away. People don't want to die. But here, they're suffering like Gehinnom on earth. But they still don't want to die. And you ask them, but why? Just let go. And the reason why, the exact same thing. They don't want to change. They are accustomed to doing certain things. Certain people, right? They're like a mechanic. It's like a... So they don't want to change. It's like the creature of its habits. And therefore, because of that, that's another reason why people do not want to do that. That's one of the reasons why the Kuchimuni says, not everyone accepted the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to every single nation. So you want to accept the Torah? What was the first thing they asked? What's written in it? HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to every single one and told them something that they needed to change. So he tells Esav, you're not allowed to kill. It's not for me. He tells whether it's going to be Ishmael, you're not allowed to steal. It's not for me. Why didn't he just flip? The reason why is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu already knows the Torah was given to us in order to change our nature, in order to become better people. We are not perfect. We need the Torah. The Torah is hora'ah, to show us the proper path. And therefore, we know what is the most important element in the Torah? Musar. What is Musar? To become better people, which is basically self-reproach, which we are giving the Musar to ourselves. Instead of us giving it to other people, we learn the Musar and we say to ourselves, you know what? I have to work upon myself. I have to become better in this, and I have to become better in this, and I keep on working on myself because I know who I am, which we're actually going to see later on is actually one of the best ways of reproach, the best ways of tochacha, when we actually give it to ourselves. But what happens is that the Midrash, Kuchimuni says, that's what Hashem purposely did. He told every single nation, you want to accept the Torah, you're not allowed to kill. Esav says, I can't change my nature. That's who I am. Forget about the Torah. He came to the Arabs, the exact same thing. I need to steal. Forget about it. But that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually wants from us. And the danger and the difficulty in changing this behavior always starts, right, because of this. The last one is not exactly like the first one, but this is what Daniel said beforehand, is blocking hostility. What does that mean? Many times, right, the main difficulty is usually when we come and we give rebuke, it's out of anger. It's when you're upset. You come, you scream, you come and you give it. And that hostility, what it does is it actually, many times it influences, whether it's all the people that there's an inner voice that says, don't do it now. Don't say anything. Calm yourself down. So, okay, you bite your tongue once, twice, 3 times until what happens? You let loose. And then what happens? You just start screaming. So many people, they don't actually realize that when they're actually telling you what they're telling you, you're not paying attention anymore to what they're saying. You're paying attention to their tone of voice and the way that they're saying it and not what is being said. Which means I could come and I could tell you in a very, very nice way, please get up. But if I tell you, get up, you're going to do it. But you're not paying attention anymore. You're just going, how he told me. I could have told you the exact same way, but it all depends on the way that it's being said. So now, what happens? So for example, many times we have this. You could open up a book or an article, and the article is speaking about something, a flaw that we have, something that we have. We have a certain mistake or we have something to improve. So we come and we start reading it. Did anybody ever have a problem reading the book or reading this article? No. Why not? It's not directed to me. So I come and I want to help myself. So I come and I start reading the book. He's not speaking to me. He's speaking to everybody. It happens to be, by the way, that it also addresses me. So I'm going to come and I'm going to start reading it. And you know what? It's beautiful. That's exactly what I needed to hear. But there's the hostility that I feel that if you're coming and you're attacking me, automatically I put a shield. And I say, stop, I'm not accepting it. Why? Because how is it being said? And therefore it's so important. And one of the courses, this is what I said before, was something incredible. A rabbi, he was coming, there's a rabbi on Shalom Bayit courses, but he actually went and he said, he was giving lectures on about people, whether you could do this, by the way, in everything. You could be a manager. And for example, let's say we're going to come and we're going to try to improve our deliveries in speech. So you're going to get up and you're going to give a speech. So what they did is that they did a program. What was the program? They come and they're going to record you. And you come and you're trying to sell a product, let's say. So you come, you get up there, you're doing a short video, trying to sell it. So what happens? They come and they record you. Okay, after the 5-minute recording, they come and they say, okay, fine, let's see how you did. They put it live in front of you. Now, usually, the majority of people, when they see themselves, is like, oh, I don't want to see myself, or I don't want to hear myself. Right? They don't like to hear their voice, or they don't want to see themselves. So they come, they see the video, and what do? They give their own criticism. They say, you know what? Maybe I was actually very good, maybe in the first minute, in the beginning, in the last part, or in the middle, or maybe, but you know what? I have to improve in this. Maybe the choice of words. I had to get better, better language, more synonyms, more direct note, whatever the case is. When they come and they do that, they write down all the positives, all the negatives, and you become your own critic. You become the person that you're criticizing yourself. And then what they tell you to do is, okay, fine, do it again. So you prepare again, and then you give it again. And now you see, did you actually improve? That, in essence, is where you get the most success. Why? Because you don't feel that you are doing it for yourself. You want yourself to succeed. So therefore, since you don't feel that anybody's attacking you, you don't put up the guards. So that's a self-defense. The truth is, the self-defense is a little bit about the kavod at the beginning, but it was more because of the ego that since I feel perfect and you're telling me, no, I don't want that. I don't want to feel that you're better than me. So, you say you're better than me? No, but you have this problem. Now, yeah, but what does that have to do? Okay, you're right. I have that problem. But let's talk about what we're talking about now. But again, this is just a little bit of what we're talking about. When we continue, right, we actually see this in many different ways. We see this from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Torah, listen to this. Moshe is being spoken about by Aaron and Miriam. Aaron and Miriam come and they speak about Moshe Rabbeinu. What do they say? We're talking about the brother and sister of Moshe Rabbeinu. They come and they speak about Moshe. And they say, who does he think he is? He comes and what? Because of Tzipurah, because of the Isha Kushit Lakach. What's going on? HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes, and it says in the Torah as follows. Vayomer, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shimuna devarai. Listen, please, to my words. If the prophecy of what Hashem, when I speak to people, I don't actually come and I speak like normal prophets. Normal prophets, if I'm going to come, I'm going to let them know, I'm going to come. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I speak to him. Moshe Rabbeinu, I speak to him. Like I speak to a friend. And therefore, it's not the same thing. Then, Vayichar af Hashem bam, vayilach. All of a sudden, now Hashem gets angry, and he goes away. Now, was Hashem angry the first time around? Obviously. How do we know he was angry the first time around? He actually made the Miriam got sarat in that case. Now again, we always know that we're talking about a brother and a sister. They automatically love their brother. They love Moshe. We're not talking about critics, right? That this is their leader and they're trying to criticize their leader. This is their brother. And they're trying to speak about their brother and they mean the best for him. But they said it, and at the end of the day, it was wrong. Miriam actually got punished. She got the tzarat. But do you realize how Hashem speaks? Shimuna, says Rashi, says the Sifri, says everyone, Ennai lalashon bakasha. Na is please. He's pleading with them. Meaning Hashem is telling them, please, don't speak like that about Moshe Rabbeinu. Then when he finishes teaching them what they did wrong, what does he do? Now he gets upset, and then he goes. But at the time of the rebuke, he wasn't upset. He didn't give it in an upset language. He was speaking to them calmly. Not afterwards was Vayicharaf Hashem. Only afterwards, not beforehand. And that's why it's so important just for us to understand that the way to give it is that a person has to understand, right? For example, you want your spouse to change. And many times people come and say, yeah, but, so I ask him, did you ask him to do it in a certain way? He says, of course. You know how many times I told him not to do this? You know how many times? I told him once, I was screaming at him just to show him how crazy he drives me, but it just never works. And he says, you know why? Because you're always screaming. And the fact that you are always screaming and you never actually gave it, right, in another form, which means that you didn't give the rebuke calmly and in a nice way, what happened? That's why he never listened to you. Or she never listened to you. Because it was the way that it was said, not what was said. Because the second that it was given over in such a way, automatically you put a block, they're angry, I don't understand what they're talking about. It's different, it doesn't match. And therefore the person doesn't actually listen from the beginning. So now we're going to speak about, okay, how do we give them the tochacha? How exactly are we going to come and we are going to give tochacha to other people? So first of all, tochacha is rebuke, So when you want to give rebuke or you want to criticize them or you want them to change in something, and again, this could change in an action, this can change in the way that they act, the way that they speak, what they did in an action. So rule number one is, no, not Moroccan way, because that you'll never get accepted, right? The way that to do it.
Sometimes women, they wake up and they are emotional already from the day. Like, they wake up like reverse, and you can say whatever you want.
So the truth is, we said in the second, we said in the second
all
shiur.
of them, they love, man, it's true.
Okay, 100%. Listen carefully. Yeah, we said in the second shiur, I think it was, we said that when you get married to 3 different wives. You remember?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's all in one body.
You missed that one.
Yeah, you missed it.
You weren't here for that one.
I didn't know this one.
But it's all in one body. Yeah, one body. What does that mean? We said when your wife is in the normal state of mind, when your wife is anida, and when your wife is pregnant. 3 different women. What does that mean? Right? We know that they change. Right? They have hormones. Much less than men. Men have much less hormones than women. And therefore we don't go up and down that way. But, right, women have hormones and therefore they change, right, the way that they act. So you could tell her good morning today in one way and she accepted it. And tomorrow she's going to blast you. Right? 100%. But you have to know that. Right? Which means that you have to know you have to know which period they are. Right? And you have to actually understand how it works. Okay? By the way, you should know, right? We're speaking about the women, but that's like that in anything. Right? For example, right? One day you come into your boss, right? And you tell him something or you did a mistake, and big deal. The next day you came in and he went crazy. Now why? Because you didn't realize that he had a car accident beforehand. And he had I don't know what. And therefore they were in a bad mood. And many times it changes. So therefore, what we just said is that a person has to understand that not always everything that you say will always be accepted the same way. Sometimes you have to pay attention, right, to something that's good. You have to be sensitive to that, okay? But the first thing that you have to do is preparation. Why preparation? Because one more time, right, you told me about being a salesman, that you have to be a salesman all your life. Well, the truth is, yes, you're right. You have to be a salesman. Why? Right now, you want your wife or you want your husband to accept what you're going to say. If you're not going to prepare and you're just going to come and you're just going to give it over like that, they'll never accept it. And the reason why they'll never accept it is because you didn't prepare in order how to give it. You have to think, how do I say it in order that they are going to accept it? That's rule number 1. So therefore you want to score. So for you want to score the sale, right? And you want to make the sale the exact same way. You want to come and you want to get the sale. How do you get it? That they're actually going to change. So if the purpose of criticism is to change, meaning something bothers me, so therefore I have to say it. So you're right, you could say it. But how do you say it? That's the main thing. How? So you have to prepare. I'm thinking in my mind, how am I going to say this that they're going to accept it? Okay, so now, when we're going to pay attention to that, so therefore, when we're going to listen to it, we have to be very careful. How is it being said? Why? I'm going to give you an example. Sometimes I come, right, and I'm going to tell a child something. And right away you come and you start screaming at them. Are they actually paying attention to what you're saying? The majority of the times, they know what you're already telling them. They just know blah, 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 blah. Every once in a while I say, okay, right, but you just continue. But what am I already preparing in my mind? The answer. No. I'm not actually paying attention to what they're telling me. Right away I'm already thinking, what am I going to respond? What am I going to answer? Now, that's bad because at the end of the day, I didn't want that. So that's why we're actually going to learn that many times it shouldn't be in a form of a question. Because if I ask, why did you do this? Automatically your brain stops. You're thinking, 1 second, why did I do that? I have 1, 2, 3, I'm going to give them 3 answers. Or I start thinking, what's the best answer to give? Why? Because that's automatically what goes in your brain. So many times we're going to learn that the best way of criticism is not to ask as a question. But if you're asking a question, it means that you're going to get a response. Which means you just told them, stop listening and start thinking about what's the answer. And you don't want that, which is very, very important. But it's also in the way that it's going to be in the preparation. Why? It once happened that there was a rabbi that spoke to one of the katzins, one of the big officers in the army. And he said that at the beginning, he used to always tell the people the way the things were. But he realized with many, many years of experience that he had to start lying a little bit or changing a little bit, to make it more, that can't be 100% straight. So the rabbi went and he told him what we mentioned, I think 2 shiurim ago, or last year, I don't remember which one, that we mentioned the difference between truth and false. And he went and he said like this. He said, you should understand, every single time you were giving criticism, if the outcome was not that they were going to change, in essence, you lied to them. Because truth and false is not the reality. It's the outcome. And therefore, if you right now coming and now you're actually giving over the criticism in a way that you want them to change and they're going to change, right now you just told the truth. And therefore he was trying to teach this officer that at the beginning the officer thought, listen, at the beginning I had to always tell the truth because I just said it the way that it was, right? Dugri, as they say, the truth, I just tell it to your face. And then all of a sudden I came, let's touch it up a little bit. Let's make it a little bit nicer. He said, no, that's what you were supposed to do from the beginning. Because that's the only way you're going to succeed. Because if you are not going to make it nice, nobody will ever listen. Which means if you're going to give over the criticism and it's not going to be nice the way that you're going to give it over, there's nothing what to do. So one of the most important things is opening statement. Opening sentence. That's one of the most important parts of criticism. How do you start? The great importance is attached to the sentence that opens the criticism. It's going to determine how they're going to accept it or not. Meaning, if they're going to start and they already start in the negative, stop. You already went off. Nothing what to talk about. Nothing what to talk about. They already started wrong. So that's it. That's what happens. And by the way, you should know that happens in everything in life. If somebody calls you up and they tell you right away, negative, 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 the answer is block. Forget about it. There's nothing what to talk about. Continue. Right? They say in Hebrew, torimayim, no? Flush. Yeah, you flush the toilet. Yeah, flush. There's nothing what I want to talk about. That's it. Because you started wrong. Who actually says this? The Ramchal. The Ramchal says one of the first things that you're supposed to do, especially if you're going to speak to people, is that you come and you tell them words of anava. You ask them to shoot. You ask them with your permission. You ask them, you tell them that you're with them. Why? Because when you come and you're starting in such a fashion, I'm on your side. So if I'm on your side, we're not against each other. That's number one. Because if you're going to start with an attack, you're not going to get anywhere. And I think it was actually Roosevelt that said this. Theodore Roosevelt said that I think it was Roosevelt that he said this, that you always have with a big stick approach. That he says you always start with diplomacy, but you always have the big stick as well. Which means you have the stick, you have the power of the Navy, and you have all the army and everything, but you always start with diplomacy. Diplomacy means you always start with a good thing. You're never going to start, Russia did something, boom, you shoot them down, you send a nuke. No. First you start, let's try with peace. You start once, you're right. If you really do need, you have the big stick with you. But at the end, you always start nicely. So therefore, whenever you're actually going to come and you're going to start anything to do with rebuking, it will always start with the positive. You're always going to have to start with something nice. Now, where do we see this? The Shla Kadosh actually bases this on a pasuk in Mishle. The Shla Kadosh says as follows: Al tochach letz pen yisnaika. We brought this at the beginning of Shiur. Don't give tochacha to a letz. Don't give rebuke to a letz, to a mocker, to somebody that makes jokes, because he's going to hate you. Tochea chacham yaveka. Give tochacha to the chacham, and he'll love you. Explains the Shla Kadosh. He says like this. He says, if you come and you call a guy a letz, you call him a mocker, you lost him. He's going to hate you automatically. If you call him a chacham, he will love you. Meaning, the way to give the rebuke is, if you're going to say, what is this? Or like, all of a sudden, he's going to hate you. If you come and you say, listen, you're such a good guy, right? It's not my team. It's not fitting for you. You're such an incredible person. It's not fitting for you to do such a thing. I'm surprised in you because you're much better than that. You're actually coming, you're giving them the words but you're calling him a chacham. You're calling him something positive. So by doing that, it's going to change the exact outlook and how it is, because that's what you're doing it. There was once a person that he came and he said that they had a minhag. Listen to this minhag, right? The minhag was whenever they get a fight between the husband and wife, they don't speak to each other for a few hours, but they write each other letters. Once upon a time, it used to be letters. Nowadays, it would just be texts. So imagine what will be on the texts.
What's up, voice?
Yeah, okay, what's a voice? At least you're saying the voice. Nowadays it's with text. So obviously the texts are not going to be the most beautiful texts. So what happened was she went to a shiur of a rabbi, and the rabbi started saying this about saying words. Kodem kol, the opening statements is the main part. So she wanted to do a test. She wanted to test herself. So what does she do? The next time they got into a big fight, she comes and she starts thinking, what am I going to write? So she comes, and the first things that she does is she starts praising her husband. How much does she appreciate what he does? How many good things does he do? Everything. First there. And then she went on the Megillah. So first she started with the positive, and then she went on with the Megillah of how many, right? Now again, the positive might have been not even one perek. The rest was the 10 prakim of the Megillah Esther, but she started with a positive. Now she wanted to test her husband. She wanted to see what happened. So she leaves it on the table, and she's waiting. And she's hiding in the corner to see what's going to be his reaction this time. So she comes and she sees that he picks up the paper, and he's looking, and all of a sudden she sees that he's a little bit confused. You know, he's ready for the bomb, and all of a sudden there's it looks like almost like a love letter. What's going on? Yeah, what changed all of a sudden? So he's with a big smile. All of a sudden, after a few lines, obviously, comes the other way around, right? And he continues reading. But he continues reading the entire letter. He finishes the entire letter. And after reading the entire letter, she's going to see, okay, now what's he going to do? He starts at the beginning again. And he starts reading the first lines again. So now she's confused. Before he was good, now she's confused. What's he doing again? All of a sudden, he finished reading the first few lines, and he came and he tried to appease her. What changed? What changed was the approach. Because since she came at the beginning and she said how good you are, you're right, we all have flaws. We're not perfect. We all have problems, right? And but there's what to work with. So what happened was it changed the entire atmosphere. Then all of a sudden, he actually wanted to appease her. He wanted to come and he wanted to actually say sorry for what he did and because everything changed. Before, it was just shooting at each other arrows. Who's going to give the bigger bomb? But now, all of a sudden, once you start with a positive, it actually changed everything which was actually going on. Okay? The David Nagid actually says this. He says that when you're actually coming and you're giving any type of a rebuke, you have to give it besever panim yafot. What does it mean? What does it mean exactly besever panim yafot? He comes and he says that when we're talking about, right, the sever panim yafot, it means that it has to be, right, with a smile. So in one of the sessions that they had, right, there was certain things that they were bothering each other, right? One of them, Moshe went and he started saying about his wife that she's not mesuderet. So he comes and he says, right, my wife, she's not organized. So the rabbi tells him, okay, explain. He says, listen, usually there's a saying that this, especially when you go to, especially bachurim or you go to bachelors or whatever it is, you go to their house, what do they always tell you? It's missing a woman's touch. Why does it say missing a woman's touch? Because everything's a balagan. You look all around and everything's chaos, right? You look like a tornado went through there. So what happens? You come and you say, so she went and he said, listen, it's not, so I thought that I was getting married. And I realized that my wife is completely not mesuderet. She's completely not organized. So he's not happy. So all of a sudden the wife comes and she screams, says, what? What are you talking about? He says, what? The living room's not properly, the orderly, the kitchen. He goes, no. I'm not talking about where people go in. I'm talking about the bedroom. So then when she went and she told him, okay, fine. But at least say that the house is orderly and just the bedroom is not. But why? She was going to right away come and tell him, but are you orderly? Which means, are you very organized? Obviously the answer is usually men are not. Right? Again, there's always exceptions to the rules, but usually not. Right? But what he was trying to show him is it depends how the approach of what you're going to say, is that going to change it or not? Another important concept is criticizing the action and not the person. So many times when we're talking about the action and not the person, many times we come and we speak about the person. For example, you're not considerate. Right? Why did you do that? You're not human. You're crazy. They come and they attack the human being. And instead of doing that, they don't actually realize that they had to do the other way. Right? You're inconsiderate. There are many different types of forms that you're attacking the human being. You have to actually come and say the exact opposite. Why? It's on the action. It's not the human being. Right? Because when you attack the person, it becomes very personal. And then there's not much what to do. But if you're just saying the action, for example, this hurt me, right? Whatever you said, the words that was said was hurt me. Many times, even I was hurt by the words that you said, or by, I was saddened, right? So many times, even if you're swallowing, meaning that you're coming, you're saying derech agav, who was the one that said it, who was the one that did it, but you're actually saying it by the way. You didn't actually say you did it. Obviously, it was you, right? But you said, by the way, this actually hurt me a lot. By doing that, you're not attacking the human being. And therefore, it's actually going to change. And if it becomes personal, so then they might actually even attack back. So when they tell you, why did you do such a thing? Why did you hurt me? So you say, well, you don't hurt me. Obviously, it becomes, a tit for tat all of a sudden. And it becomes, right, one for another. So therefore, you deserve it, or other things, or you're also not considerate, or or like what you said, you're too sensitive, right? Now again, if you're going to come and you're going to say, right, that so if you attacked him, so now he's going to answer, you're too sensitive, right? But if you're going to just say, this hurts me, so the person understands, okay, fine. I understand why, but it's appropriate. Because, again, if you're going to come and you're going to say, why did you do something? This is what we said beforehand about the lama. The second that you ask the why, many times that influences that you're going to have the negative answer. So therefore, many times you don't have to say the why. Say a statement. This actually hurt me. Or another thing which we're going to say is, I assume you had no intention, right? You didn't have any intention to cause me harm, but this is what happened. Why? Because automatically I low down the guard. When you come to a person and say, you did this to me, they have to put self-defense. If you come and you're not asking for the self-defense, you tell them, listen, I know that you didn't mean to hurt me, but it hurt. All of a sudden, they don't have to defend themselves. They just automatically, what they're going to do? They're going to apologize. But they never wanted to hurt you. They probably didn't even realize they hurt you. But that's exactly what happened. And therefore, what happens is that we have to just have to pay attention to this, right? Just to understand what's going on. Another important concept is not only just about the action, is you have to actually give the explanation. Why? Many times we give criticism and we don't explain why. Right? We don't actually explain why. And that's actually one of the most important things to explain, because if we would explain how difficult it is, they would actually change it. So one of them was, for example, there was a woman that was called Geula, that every single time she would tell her husband, why are you telling everybody our private things that go on in the house? So the husband continued doing it, and she kept on getting angry and angry. So once he went and he told the wife, no, explain. So he said no, because every single time it was bothering her. She said it's not mekubal. It's not accepted. We don't have to take out the dirty laundry by other people. But she never actually explained herself that really bemet, it hurts that other people know her business. And therefore she has to act out according to other people, or she has to live her life according to what other people know, or she doesn't want to actually think what other people are saying about her. So once she comes and she explains how difficult it is, all of a sudden now it changes, right? There was another example, right? A husband comes, or I'll give you the main one, the main example, right? This is one example of, for example, right? You tell your wife, listen, please call your mother-in-law. Yeah? So, the mother-in-law. Right, so you call your mother-in-law, which is your mother. Right? Okay, so you have to call your mother-in-law. So what's she going to tell you? She doesn't want to. Right? Usually they'll come and say, I don't want to call the mother-in-law. Right? Belmere. No, you say Belmere. Belmere, yeah. I don't want it.
They don't like them right away.
Right away they don't like them. That's not halakha.
The day you get married, she hates you.
That's it. You signed it. Correct? But by the way, you wrote that in the ketubah. You know that.
I don't know.
Okay, so now you know. Yeah? No, it's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says about it. Okay, very good. The Gemara and Mishnah says it. The Mishnah and the Gemara says that you should know that it's a nature that they hate each other.
Yeah.
Nature.
That's true.
Okay, fine. So now what happens? What happens is, and by the way, it's actually something very natural, because each one feel that they're stealing them from themselves. That's why.
So it's
which
a
means
competition.
it's a competition. It becomes a public competition. The mother wants that the child should be hers, and the wife wants that the husband hers, and each one, they always defend each other, and each one has to be perfect in their eyes. So when you go to your mother's house, you have to say that she does the best food. But then when you're with your wife, you say that she does the best food. And make sure that they're not together at the same time, so each one doesn't say that they do the best food. Right, that's the way that it goes. Fine. Okay. But now what happens is, you come and you tell her, call your mother-in-law. What's she going to tell you? I don't want. So you have a problem. So they go to the rabbi. The rabbi, so he tells the guy, no, what's happening? He says, no, I want. So he says, why? Why do you think like that? He says, no, because it's halakha. The kala, the daughter-in-law, should respect her mother-in-law. So what is the wife going to say? What are you talking about? Right? First of all, she has to respect me, no? No, but she has to come and what? Oh, she's not even waiting for my phone call. Why do I have to actually call her? Right? So what happens is you have a dilemma here. What are you going to do? So then the rabbi became smart, and the rabbi comes and he tells him, 1 second. What's so important to you? Why do you need her? Why do you need your wife to call your mother? So then he went and he said the statement. He went and he said, listen, it's very, very simple. If my mother feels that nobody's calling her, she thinks that either I'm against her, right? Because I don't have the time to call her as much, or that my wife is against her. So somebody's against her. I don't like the tension. So therefore, the truth is, I want to get rid of the tension. I don't need that my mother's thinking in her mind that somebody's out to get her or whatever it is. It's just, the wife says, okay, I'll call. What changed? Beforehand, it was as if to say it was a complaint against the wife. You have to respect your mother-in-law, call your mother-in-law. She's going to say either she has to respect me, or she's not really waiting for my call, or what does it really matter? I could call once every, for the Chagim or whatever it is, right? And you could continue going. The second that you said the reason why it was so important for you, for her to come and to give the phone call, she's automatically going to do it. Because once you see why it's so important for you to do that, then all of a sudden it changes everything. And that's why it's so important for us just to understand, right, this way. I'll give you another example, right? Sometimes it happens that we think that women speak a lot, but sometimes the men also speak a lot. So it usually happens with, meetings or this or that, and sometimes they get caught up. So what happens is the wife comes and she gets all upset. Why? Because, again he came late. And since he came late again, what happened? The food was burnt, and this was there, and you continue going, and then it becomes big problems. So what happens? So what happens is that if the woman's just going to come and tell off her husband that why are you late and why, so again, it's not going to work well. Listen to the chokhmah of the way that you're supposed to say it. Now again, you probably should write this down, but this is actually, he comes and she says like this. He says, right, not when he enters the house, because that's what we're going to see later on. It's one of the worst things to do when a guy comes into the house, you give him the rebuke or you give him on the head. That's the worst thing. He's never going to listen, right? So first, he comes in, he becomes all relaxed, and then you come and you say this follows. He said, listen, I understand that people like to talk with you, right? And obviously I know you have no intention of harming me, but look how much it causes that now I was preparing the house, I stopped everything, I prepared everything to make sure that you don't have to wait, so that way the food was going to be ready for you. If I was going to prepare too much before, it wasn't going to be good food. In addition, I had to stop the usual work, then I had to stop with the kids, and then I couldn't rest. And look how many things, and not only that, it bothers me most, with all the delays, and afterwards I have less and less even patience, and I can't even care for you, and I don't want not to care about you. Now, this sounded like a long Megillah that she was actually coming and telling him, which, okay, fine, but what did she gain? So here he actually says, it looks very long, but he actually said, number one, he wasn't placed in an embarrassing situation because he wasn't doing it out of malice, out of bad. It was somebody else that they like speaking to him. It's always somebody else, it wasn't him. He didn't want to do anything bad. Number two, she comes and she talks about her efforts the entire time, that she wants to make it clear that she's doing everything for him. Number three, she tells him about the loss of her rest and the children, because she wasn't able to rest anymore, and then also the children lose out. So it's not only going to be them, it's going to be everybody. Then number four, she asks for his help, saying, can you help me and try to be on time? Because usually when you ask somebody for help, they want to help you out. And then the last one also, she hints to something which is very, very deep in the future. You don't want that your wife is going to lose care about you, that she doesn't care anymore. So therefore, because of all those 5 things, what she just said was gold. Automatically he's going to change it. Why? Because it all depends how you gave it over. If you come and you right away, again you're late, the food got burned, so obviously it's not going to go well. But if you went and you gave it over in such a way, all of a sudden everything is going to change. So again, these are all the different signs. There's going to be much more. There's about going to the parents, about the in-laws and the parents. And obviously, usually the way that it happens is that when you go to your parents, right, usually by the men's parents, the women always call, where are you? When are you coming home? What's going on? But when you go to the woman's parents, usually there you could stay there for weeks and months at end, and there's no... What? Why is everyone laughing?
No, that's not true.
No, it's not true?
I think it's only in the book like that.
Okay, fine. Okay, so at least by him it's not like that. That's the first time. It's the opposite, nafochu. Yeah, but usually by the man's parents,
Yes.
it has to be like a bikur, as they say. Bikur cholim, it has to be for a few minutes. So bikur, it has to be for a visit. A doctor's visit.
Why?
Usually that's what happens. But when it's by the woman's family, you could be there for weeks and nothing happened. You understand?
It's too much.
Okay, fine. So what happens though now is that what happens? So in such a form, the same thing. If the husband will come and explain to his wife in a nice way that he needs the support, that he also wants to visit them, so she's going to say, okay, but you probably go much more frequent to your parents than you go to my parents, right? Or things like that. So therefore it has to be in a certain level. But it all depends on how everything is going to be given over. Okay? Now, another important concept is not to, when you're giving the rebuke, not to put someone down with the compliment with something good. So I'll give you an example. Imagine right now, right, somebody wanted to go to a shiur, right? And usually the husband works late every single night. And she wanted to go to shiur and it was very, very important for her. So the husband, he went out of his way. He came early home and he's there. So kol hakavod, he came early home. The wife comes and immediately she says, right, instead of coming and saying, hello, how are you doing? Okay, chaval, you didn't come an hour earlier. Because that way at least the kids could have seen you. Now the truth is, for him, that just burst his bubble. Why? Because he just did all his effort to come to make sure that he's early for the shiur, right? In order that you could go to a shiur. So he's actually showing that he did a sacrifice for you. Now, you gave a criticism, but the criticism was at an expense of something good that they just did. That destroyed everything that happened. So what are you supposed to do? What you're supposed to do is at the time, what you're supposed to do is, you have to actually thank them 1,000,001 times. Remember that was the main thing by the men. You thank them 1,000,001 times that they came and they did the effort, that they came early. Yeah, 101 times. Keep on going. You don't mention anything at the time. The next day, again, you do the same thing. And you say, by the way, kol hakavod for yesterday. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know it's very, very difficult to you. And by the way, next time, the whole week is afterwards. But one second. But the next day you come and you tell them, by the way, if you would have been able to come even an hour earlier, then you would have even been with the kids. But it was not an attack. It was by the way, and it was the next day, and it was with all the 1,000,000 times that she was praising, singing his praises. The next time that he's going to come, what's going to happen? He's going to make sure that he's going to come an hour earlier. But why? Because it depends how it was given over. If it was going to be given over in such a way...
Why she doesn't say like, thank you to come on time, I'm so happy you come earlier.
100%. No, but that's what we said. That's what she's supposed to say. She says, thank you for coming on time, or thank you for coming early. It wasn't even on time. He came early. He did the effort to come early. And afterward, and it continued going. The next day, that's when he's going to come, and she's going to tell him, by the way, to come an hour earlier, so that way, if you would have come an hour earlier, or by the way, coming an hour earlier, even the kids will enjoy, you'll get some time to them, they also want to see you, something like that, but again, it's in the positive. It's not an attack, that they did something good, and now you shoot them down, but I just did something good. What are you telling me now, something negative? Okay? Fine. Whenever we're talking about competition, so we spoke about this beforehand to do with competition, we spoke about the entire concept that always include ourselves in the statement. So instead of saying something about you, we could have done something better, right? Or never compare to somebody else. So never say my brother, my sister, my mother, my this, my that, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're just causing hatred. Because whenever you're comparing, whether it's a spouse, whichever one it is, to somebody else, you're causing them to hate the other person because kilu, they're better than you are. And you don't want that. So therefore, you never compare anything whatsoever. Plus, you're always going to come and you're always going to include yourself in the criticism. Sometimes if you're not as satisfied, whatever, you could say, we could change it in a certain way or form. And that's in essence how we're supposed to do it. Sometimes also, very important, is when we're giving the criticism, many times we have to actually be part of it. What does that mean? The worst criticism is going to be if I didn't help out whatsoever, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to say, by the way, this is terrible. And say, okay, but if you would have helped me, maybe we would change something. Which means, if we do not help out in something, you do not want to take, right, the criticism. And that I think is very, very important, because many times it actually happens that you want to be a part of it, and only after you start helping, then you could actually come and put your 2 cents in it. Because if not, they're going to tell you, who do you think you are that you're coming in? You're not even in, you're not even there. Like, what's going on exactly, right? So this we actually find by Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, before actually coming and giving criticism to Bnei Israel, he first made sure that they fought Sichon and Og. And after coming and conquering the land to come towards Eretz Yisrael, even though he wasn't coming in, then he gave his rebuke. Because he wasn't going to be a person on the outside and they're going to say, it's very easy for him to give you, but let him come and let him start conquering the land, let him come and start doing the action, and then afterwards you could actually give the criticism. Obviously there's a lot more to the shiur. The time is up, so we're going to have to stop here. But the main concepts of what we mentioned about the criticism, if we're just going to give a very short synopsis, right, a very short summary is that in essence, the criticism is in order to build. We're supposed to build ourselves. There's nothing wrong with criticizing. But the concept is that the chokhmah, the wisdom is how to do it in a constructive way. Now, how to do it in a constructive way is number one, never make yourself feeling that you're attacking. If you feel or you already realize that you're on the attack, you already started wrong. Stop, because you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to go backwards, right? So that's going to be rule number one. You cannot make that feel. You always have to make that you're always part of it and that you want to build. And if you're always going to build, you always start with something positive, right? The first remark is everything. And by the way, you should know that's in everything in life. You're going to start an essay, the first comment, that's what it is. The first paragraph, the first line, the first everything. The first sentence, what do you think they pay millions for marketing? For what? The first sentence. Why? They want that first sentence out there. That's what now, according to what they just wrote there, are you going to read the email or not? Everything else, it doesn't matter. But the first sentence is the key. So prepare yourself. You have to actually think over it beforehand. Don't do it right away. Right? We're going to learn later on, but I'll just give it to you very, very quickly. You never give rebuke when somebody's leaving the house. The reason why is because when somebody's leaving, they're going to be with it the entire day. They're going to think about it the entire day. So you never give it when they're leaving. Not when they come in. Because imagine somebody the entire day was out. They're exhausted. They come home. They want to, first thing, boom, with the shotgun. Nobody's going to like it. Right? So therefore, never give it at that time. When a person's eating, remember, eating is kodesh kodashim, right? There's a mizbeach, right? So don't give criticism when you're eating at a meal. Right? 4, always when you're giving it, make sure that it's a nice avida, it's a nice atmosphere. Meaning, don't give it right away. If somebody did something wrong, sometimes even wait a day. Why? Because first of all, your anger is gone. So therefore, when you're actually going to give it out, it's not going to be angry. But not only though, when you're actually giving it over, it's going to be accepted much better. Because the way of your deliverance is going to be completely different. So again, these are all just little tiny tips of what it is, the concept of building in marriage. It's not criticizing, it's actually building in marriage. Obviously, Blina, there's a lot more, and we'll have to pick up another time.